Hello! So this particular film was recommended to me. It's actually a talkie. It was directed and produced by Mack Sennett. It was released in 1932. The title of the film is Hypnotized. Now, I couldn't find a lot on this film, but one thing that I am going to point out is there is a vaudeville team in this movie. They are Moran and Mack, and they would perform in blackface. And in this particular movie, they do perform in blackface. Now, you have to understand that during that time, there were a lot of vaudeville performers and actors and everything. They would perform in blackface. It was the time. Does that make it okay? No. Times have changed. But one thing I would recommend is to overlook the blackface because, bear with me on this, because of the fact that Moran and Mack, the humor that they give this movie is just hysterical. This movie actually introduced me to the Moran and Mack duo. I had never heard of them before. The dry humor is just over the top, and I love dry humor, so I highly recommend overlooking the blackface and just sitting back and watching and listening, because the humor is just hysterical coming from these two. And so when it comes to the film itself, moving on from that, you start off with a horse race, and the horse race is going, and then all of a sudden it ends, and it introduces like this sweepstakes. And so like the winner of the sweepstake, and that's over in London, and then you are switched over to New Jersey, a circus in New Jersey, and this young man named Billy is standing and watching another act, Princess Mitzi. Now he's just the caretaker or the one who takes care of the elephants, so he just considers himself a complete nobody, because here she is, she's Princess Mitzi, the violinist and everything. And his friend, Egbert, I think was his name, Egbert or Egbert, I can't remember. But anyway, his friend is encouraging him to talk to Mitzi, and Billy just won't do it. He refuses to do it until he gets this telegram saying that he won that sweepstakes. So he's got a lot of money now. Well, come to find out that Princess Mitzi likes Billy and has been frustrated with him because he won't talk to her. Oh, kids. Silly young love. Oh, goodness. So the wedding is on. Only when the wedding day happens, Billy and Egbert are not there. They're no-show. It absolutely destroys Princess Mitzi. She's just heartbroken. And her maid, Pearl, is doing everything she can to console Mitzi, but nothing is working. The circus gets on a ship and leaves, and on this ship is a hypnotist. The hypnotist is trying to have a show on the ship and everything, which isn't working well. Through the hypnotist, you realize that you find out the reason why Billy and Egbert weren't at his wedding, because they were hypnotized. And then the movie just continues on finding out, trying to explain things, can't come because of the hypnotist, and everything else. Now, there were a lot of reviewers when I was trying to find information on this. There were a lot of people who would review this movie and give it a really bad review, and then they would come back and retract. And they would say, well, I've watched it a few times, and I actually really like this movie. So, first watch, I really enjoyed it. So I don't know if I'm just weird or what. but I do have to say that I understand where it can confuse people. One person said it best where they said everything in the kitchen sink kind of plot. That works for the Marx Brothers and even for the Road 2 movies with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, where, but even those have a solid story, a solid plot, kind of with the Marx Brothers. You don't really expect a plot with the Marx Brothers. You just let them loose. But, this didn't, there was kind of a plot there, but with Mack Sennett, you expect a plot. And there kind of was one there, but it takes watching a couple times to realize what it really is. So, but again, I enjoyed it. I thought it was enjoyable. Between the the misunderstandings with the hypnotist and everything, the fact that they didn't know that the hypnotist was there and everything else. Now, when it comes to the hypnotist, it was the way that they worked it. It was just simple. They just froze the screen. That was it. I feel like these days people overthink everything and they do way too much, and it's like, no, just keep it simple. So, yeah, it was just a simple freeze frame. and everything. Hattie McDaniel is in this film, and I'm a huge fan of Hattie McDaniel, so I had to track down the cast list, and I kept the cast list that I found, had to scroll through a whole bunch of uncredited and finally found her, because I was sure that it was her, and I was, yay, it is her. Yeah, it's definitely her. So I was excited for that, and that little cameo, or anyway, so, but yeah, quite honestly, overlook the blackface for the dry humor with Moran and Mack. Quite honestly, I'm going to be watching more of them because the humor in it was just hilarious. And again, I can see where people would be saying I have to watch it a few times to actually enjoy it, because like they said, everything in the kitchen sink kind of plot. It works for like the Marx Brothers because you let them loose, and even the Road 2 movies with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. But with Mack Sennett, you expect a solid plot, and it really wasn't there with this one. But does that ruin the movie? No, I don't think so. But anyway, this is Hypnotized. It was released in 1932. It was a talkie that was written and, it was produced and directed by Mack Sennett.